This video is a little bit about how to take a photo and turn it into a cuttable file, and at the same time take that cuttable file and import it into our system to actually cut it. Now right here I'm using Inkscape because Inkscape is a tool that we use to transform our photos into vectors. We go to File, we go to Document Properties here. We do this because we want to make sure that all of our measurements here, all of our increments are set into inches. If you're more familiar with centimeters, feel free to use centimeters, but more often than not, we're going to go ahead and use inches here. I'm going to make this a 12 inch by 12 inch or a 1 foot square here that we're going to be working in. And then I exit out of here. Alright, now I have this 12 inch by 12 inch area. I have a photo here that I got off the internet. I'm going to just drag and drop that into Inkscape. It's going to ask me whether or not I want to embed or link the image. I'm going to go ahead and just select embed. All this means is that the photo is going to be at its full resolution or its full quality inside of the program here, so that we have the best quality image to adjust and transform into a cuttable file. Now I'm taking this file here, centering it. I go to Path and Trace Bitmap. What this does is it's going to trace this image here that I've imported in and turn it into that cuttable file. Now a dialog is going to open up here. This is what it's going to look like here. It's going to ask for brightness cutoff. There's a couple of different ways you can look and see how your photo or transform your photo into a cuttable file. Brightness cutoff is the contrast between the black and the white, or the brightest part of the photo and the darkest part of the photo if you're dealing with colors. So in this case, you'll see here on my screen, it notes that there is a distinct difference between the gray and the white here, and it calls that the brightness cutoff or threshold, and you can adjust that and get more white or more black based on the image. Now in this case, because we're really only dealing with a two-color image, we're not going to see a lot of difference as we change our threshold. However, when you're working with other photos, you'll see vast differences when you're messing with your threshold, and you can set your threshold to determine how much black or how much of an outline or what you want outlined in that photo. The other thing that you'll probably be seeing more often than not is using colors here and using scans. Now under the multiple scans, using colors, you can actually separate several colors with this program. So you know all of your greens will be on a single layer as opposed to your blacks on another layer and a red on another layer. You can pull your colors apart. We're not going to be doing that in this photo because again this is a two-color photo image. Alright, so we removed the background here and we hit update and we hit OK. Now that that's done, I exit out of the trace bitmap after hitting OK, and you'll notice I'll be able to take this top layer and move it off to the side here. We're going to save that. That is the vector file. The file underneath it is the previous or the old file that we used to make that. How we can tell the difference is by going up to this small selection here. This is Edit Paths by Node. I'm able to actually go over and you'll see the edge of this highlight, and it'll notate all of the separate vectors here. If I tried to do this on the original photo, you're not going to see that because this photo isn't a vector. I'm going to go ahead and click on this and delete it. And I'll come over here and grab and drag this to the center of our 12 by 12 area. Now I want to scale this up a little bit more. You can use an even scaling by hitting Control. And I'm going to take a look at my vectors here. Looks like my vectors are pretty clean and pretty clear. If you have a more complicated image, you may want to go in and delete separate nodes here in order to create a cleaner cut file. The more nodes you have, the less clean your file is going to be, unless of course those nodes are specifically there to create a specific shape. That is to say, if you had 12 nodes along a straight line, you're going to have an imperfect line rather than being able to make a line with one node here and one node at the end. So this one spare node in the middle actually isn't necessary to make this cut, and I can go ahead and delete that there. That being said, we're going to go down to the bottom left-hand corner where it says Fill and Stroke. Double click on that little dialog there, and I'm going to remove the fill. This is going to remove all of these filled in black areas because I would just want to see the cut lines. And I click Stroke, which is going to stroke all of the vector lines available on that image. There we go. I exit out of that, and now you can see that is how our image is going to cut out. All of these little pieces of our star will disappear, leaving this outside edge. That being said, we go to File, we save. In this case, I'll save it as star, S-T-A-R. And as an SVG, we don't want to change that. We hit save, and that's it. We exit out. We open up SheetCam. SheetCam is our nesting and processing software. This allows us to take any file and transform it into G-code, which is what Mach 3 uses to transform a file into an actual cut. We're going to import our new part by clicking New Part under File. It'll ask us, do you want to import this part into the drawing? Hit yes. We'll go into our desktop. Now right here at the bottom it says we're looking for DXF. Alright, now that we're here and it says DXF files, Inkscape files are SVG files. We click on SVG. Our file appears here. We click on star, we click open. And the file will ask us our scaling. Now we have this set in inches, so I'm going to go ahead and have this set to 1:1 because SheetCam here is set to inches. And my drawing position is going to be the bottom left-hand corner, which is where I'm going to have my cut actually start. We hit OK, and it imports our file here. Take a look at that. Now this cutting surface, or this red surface area, is my imaginary sheet of material. This is a 4x4 sheet, making this approximately a little under 10 inches, or around 10 inches, based on if I had 4 of these lined up across. Clearly it doesn't make up the 48. The yellow lines indicate the cutouts, so these middle pieces will drop out, and the red line indicates the outer edge or outer limit of the cut, and these individual white dots represent separate vectors that we had present in our file. What we're going to do is go over to Operations. We're going to choose an outside offset. Outside offset means that we're going to be cutting along the outside edge of our photo or our vector instead of the inside, which would be inside offset, thus making the piece that we're cutting out on the inside more accurate to the actual measurements we did in Inkscape. We choose our layer. We always choose our layer. Layers are massively important simply because you may have multi-layer operations in the future, and without having a selected layer, it doesn't know, SheetCam doesn't know what layer you're actually trying to cut out. You may have a photo up there, but without selecting a layer, it doesn't know what it's cutting. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and set this to 16 gauge steel using a 45 XP, which gives me a feed rate of 249 inches per minute. I have my lead in and lead out set to arc, and my lead in length being 0.6 inches on both. I hit OK, and this should show me my cut path. These little half circles that you see here are the lead ins and lead outs for our cuts. This green line represents the kerf width. This looks like it's ready to cut, so we'll go over to File and Run Post Processor, and we're just going to keep the name star as the G-code name. We hit save, and now it's complete. We exit out of here. You can save this file if you want. It doesn't impact how it's going to cut. This is just something you can go back to and edit if you're making multiples or just testing out this particular file. In this case, I'm going to hit no. And then you can go ahead and import that into Mach 3, and you should be good to cut. Let me know if you have any other questions.